Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to mix guitar solos to actually cut in just 3 simple steps. I'm going to start here by playing you the guitar inside the finished mix here, and then I will solo it up. You can hear what it's sounding like by itself in its final state before we jump into all of the processing here. So let me hit play. This is the guitar inside our finished mix. So you can hear our guitar is big there. You can hear it trailing off. It's got a lot of depth to it, but it's still cutting through everything else that is going on here inside the track. Full drum kit, bass, pair of electrics, acoustics, keys, background vocals, lead vocal. It's still cutting through everything that's going on. Let me take off all of our processing here. You can hear where we started, and I'll add it on. I'll A-B our plugins here. You can hear our before and after on the guitar. So you can hear without our processing, the lead guitar is a lot more muddy, it's a lot more messy and out of control sounding. We kick these couple plugins here and suddenly we have a lot more control over our guitar and it's a lot more polished sounding as it sits in the track. So let's take everything off here and let's start with our first EQ so we can look at what we're doing here. Just a couple moves on our first EQ. Here is where we're starting. Step number 1 is just getting our guitar shaped to go into the rest of our chain. And the first thing I'm always doing on really anything that I pull up is pulling in a high pass filter. Now I've got this rolled all the way up to 221 hertz here. I want to get rid of any excess bottom end, and I want to try and tame some of the low mids here with the high pass as well. With a lead guitar, we're treating it a lot more like a lead vocal rather than a pair of electric guitars or a pair of acoustic guitars panned out wide. It doesn't need as much bottom end weight as, say, rhythm electric guitars do. We're treating a lot more like a lead element, like a lead vocal, where we're focusing more on the mid-range and the top end that's going to help it cut through in the track. So this high-pass filter is rolled up a little bit further than it would be on a pair of rhythm electric guitars. So 221, 12 dB per octave slope. Take a listen to how this cleans up our lead guitar sound. You can hear we're getting rid of all that excess noise from him sliding, any finger noise on the frets, all that stuff going on down below 200 hertz. We don't need any of that. It's not supposed to be prominent in this track here. So rolling all of that out helps us clean up our lead guitar sound. So when we push it up inside the track, it sounds really polished and professional here. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to tame some of that muddiness in the low mids here. So we're at about 357 hertz, and I'm going to pull out just like 2.5 dB here. Negative 2.4 is our cut. So take a listen without, and then I'll kick this cut in. I'll also boost it up so you can hear the area we're affecting. So that gets us one step closer to that polished sound we're looking for to make sure our guitar is going to cut through the mix. If we have all this extra bottom end and all this extra mud, as we pull our lead guitar up in volume to sit it on top of this track and get it in its lead spot, it's just going to sound messy and it's going to sound muddy and it's going to sound like it's cloudying out everything else in our track. So we want to get it trimmed, we want to get it shaped so it's going to sit properly inside the track here. The last piece we're going to do here is we're going to add a touch of brightness here. So we've trimmed out some of this low mid. You can see we're kind of balancing out the frequency range here. I just want to add a touch of this kind of 4K area to make sure our lead guitar is going to cut through everything else that is going on here. This is going to be that move that sits it on top of the rest of our instrumental here. So we're at about 4K, 3.95K. I'm going to add about a dB and a half here. Take a listen. You can hear we're kind of right on the edge of it starting to get a little bit harsh or edgy. That's where our next couple elements are going to come in here. This 3, 4, 5K area on electric guitar, especially lead guitars, you have to be careful because a little bit goes a long way. That was only a dB and a half boost, but it still adds a little bit of that edginess and that crunchiness to the sound that can be harsh for the listener. A little bit goes a long way in this top end area, but it's adding the brightness we need to help our guitar cut through in the mix. Step number 2 is our compression. Compression, we want to do a couple things here with it, not just even out the volume of our guitar, because if we zoom out, I mean, it's a distorted lead guitar, so it's pretty even to begin with. There's a couple pieces that jump out here on the lead guitar, but I also want to use it to balance out the frequency range here. So not only balancing out the volume on the guitar, but balancing out the frequency range even further from our EQ here. I like using this Everest C100A style compressor. It just does a nice kind of concreting of the EQ moves we've done previously, but you can use a stock compressor as well. Medium style attack, fast release, and just 3 or so dB of reduction is going to help solidify all of the EQ moves we've done previously, and it's going to help even out the volume as well. So take a listen without it, and then I will kick it in here. Just a touch of smoother compression like this with a medium style attack and a faster release, so we're not trying to clamp down on the guitar. Just this 3 dB of reduction holds our guitar in place volume-wise, so it's going to sit wherever we park it inside the track, but it also kind of holds the frequency range in place. So we talked about how that little boost on the top end was right on the edge of being harsh and pokey. Now it sits right where we want it. We've got the compressor holding everything in place, the bottom end, as well as that top end boost, and everything feels smooth as it should. So one more time here, and I'll A/B our EQ and our compressor before we move on to step 3. So we've got our guitar shaped and we've got it set so it's going to cut through inside the track here, but now we need to add some depth to it so it's going to feel big inside our track. It's going to cut through in the center, but we've got a lot of stuff going on the sides as well. We want to make sure our guitar feels prominent throughout our track here in the end because it's a lead guitar element. So what we're going to do is we're going to send out to a hall reverb to give it some bigness and to give it some depth all the way through the end of the track here. So I'm just using a send here on our lead guitar track. We're sending all the way over to this hall reverb here. And what I'm doing is I'm using just the factory hall setting here from PreSonus's room reverb. It's just about 1.5 seconds hall verb here, no pre-delay or anything like that, staying right on our lead guitar. You can hear there's already some delay built into our lead guitar that's coming from the guitarists themselves. But what I'm doing is I'm using the splitter plugin here. So if we come up to our channel settings here, you can access the splitter plugin, and I've got it set to channel split. So what that means is it's set left and right. So I've got one on the left and I've got the same one on the right. And then just using an EQ on the end here, rolling off anything below 300 hertz, making sure our reverb's not going to add any excess bottom end that we've already taken care of. And then I'm just swapping this left and right. I've got a couple elements in the track going to this hall reverb. This is just going to give it some width as well. Not affecting our lead guitar too much with the panning here, but everything else that's going into it, our acoustics and piano, is being affected by that. But I figured I'd show you that as well. The main thing we're looking at here is getting some depth from the hall reverb on our lead guitar. So just about a second and a half, and this is going to extend the effects that are already going on our lead guitar, and it's also going to give us some depth inside the track. So take a listen without it, and then I'll kick the hall reverb in. Listen to how it extends our lead guitar front to back as well as side to side. Just that little bit of reverb there. If we go over, we're like down at like negative 8 pretty much, negative 7.9 here on the volume for our reverb. So just a touch of that hall reverb, and it's got our guitar sounding big, and it's going to make sure it's a presence inside our track here. So let's throw it back inside the entire mix and take a listen to where our lead guitar is sitting. Three simple steps to getting our lead guitar to cut through in the mix here. Step number one is getting our EQ in place, rolling off any excess bottom end, any muddiness, adding a touch of brightness here, making sure it's not getting too edgy or too harsh. Then pulling in our compressor, a smoother style compressor, medium attack, fast release, to hold the volume as well as the frequency range in place with about 3 dB of reduction. And then step number 3 is pulling in our hall reverb here, just using the stock factory hall from PreSonus's room reverb, about 1.5 seconds. And this is adding that depth that our guitar needs to feel big and cut through in the mix. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer. Then I have just the thing for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. Like I said, completely free to download, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.